teams are still going to offer a max contract for Kevin Durant, which I think makes sense. I know you're going to miss him for the entire season, but he's still Durant. And the teams in the mix, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nets, and I guess the Warriors still too as well there, and Knicks and Nets.
You're forgetting one that we're going to be talking about
we'll
later.
get to the Mavs. Hold on there, Jimmy. I think it makes sense for those teams. And for Durant, the report from Adrian Wojnarowski is that opting back in, as I saw in the comment section, opting back in is kind of the worst case scenario. But, I mean, if you're the Knicks, wouldn't you still offer? I mean, when was the last time the Knicks got a player half as good as Durant in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, they thought, at the time, maybe Carmelo Anthony via trade. That wasn't free agency. They ended up getting him. Amari Stoudemire was a big signing at the time, but nobody top 2 in the league, which Kevin Durant is. Now, coming back again, we don't know where he'll be, what percentage of his old self he will be. But if you're the New York Knicks and Kevin Durant calls you up and says, hey, I want to play in Madison Square Garden,
you don't say no.
You're crazy if you say no. So maybe he sits out a year. We can kind of look at the situations here in just a second about what it would look like.
Yeah, and the top 5 teams here, in no particular order, by the way, the New York Knicks, the Golden State Warriors, the Clippers, the Nets, and the Lakers, all teams that would offer that max deal for Kevin Durant. Of course, there are other teams out there that would do it. Now, if we did not mention your team, let us know in the comment section. Who do you think Kevin Durant will play for this coming season? I don't think it's the Warriors. Maybe it ends up being the Nets now, or the Knicks now, because of that injury. Maybe that actually ends up helping New York a little bit. We discussed this before. Maybe the Knicks' best course of action, if they can't lure a second star, is just to sign Durant for a year and just kind of see what happens next year. Let those young players grow and develop. And, of course, we'll mention this later on with our Anthony Davis talks. The Knicks package, the best they can offer, also decimates their roster and their depth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could potentially see the Knicks roll out a lineup of, for example, a Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox, R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, maybe you take Ntilikina out of there, Trier, and you take it out one more season and see what kind of top, hopefully 3 pick you can land in New York, and then you add on a healthy Kevin Durant the next season. This question could be better put as, what team will Kevin Durant sign with? Because there's no guarantee he even plays next year.
All right, let's move then to a team that was not mentioned here. That is the Dallas Mavericks and Kevin Durant. And Jimmy, I know you're excited. Tim McMahon says that the Mavs have a chance at landing Durant now. That's cool. I have a chance of winning the lottery tomorrow. I didn't even buy a ticket. Doesn't mean I'm going to. And I know you're a Mavs guy. I don't see this happening.
I don't either. I am a huge fan. Okay. I am an optimistic fan, but I'm also a realistic fan.
There you go.
There are at least 4 teams ahead of the Dallas Mavericks right now in the Kevin Durant free agency running. And really, 2 of those teams, I would say the Knicks and the Warriors, are so far ahead of everybody else that it almost doesn't even matter. But what Tim McMahon was alluding to here is, look, the Mavs have history of dealing with Achilles problems. Wesley Matthews returned in 8 months from his torn Achilles. Didn't return the same, but still returned as a really great knockdown three-point shooter and a good defensive player. J.J. Barea tore his Achilles this past season. He's about to play in the FIBA World Cup in August, which is a speedy return. So maybe they're saying, hey, come look at our training staff. Look at what we have to offer you, Kevin Durant. We can get you healthy if you just want to sign here for the max.
I will say it's a fun core to put together. KD, Luka, and then Kristaps there. And then you can figure out your point guard, your center. Maybe it's Brunson, maybe it's Powell. Maybe you sign somebody else. Maybe you even make a different trade if you can somehow get anything remotely passable back for Courtney Lee / Tim Hardaway. Maybe Hardaway plays more because Durant and Luka can both play with the ball so well and in their own hands. You can have Luka as your point guard, so to speak, there. But it's a fun idea. Sorry, Mavs fans, probably shouldn't get your hopes up there. I would be very surprised if Durant ended up in Dallas.
Me too, but like you said, let's say they get this 1 year to let Luka and Kristaps Porzingis develop together. That's 2 of the best players under 25 years old in the NBA right now. They could make a potential playoff push even without Kevin Durant there. And then all of a sudden you throw him into the team the next season healthy. Possibilities are endless in Dallas, but again, not realistic here.
So we will see what ends up happening there with Kevin Durant. It should be an interesting route there. All right, folks, I'm Tom Downey. That's Jimmy Crowther. Make sure you're subscribed here, youtube.com/chatsportstv. We do all kinds of NBA coverage. Of course, we're live right now during the with NBA rumors and, of course, the Kevin Durant situation there. And, oh, by the way, we'll be back live again for Game 6 of the NBA Finals. We had 12,000 people watching last night.
We did.
12K.
we're kind of holding out for a Game 7 because we love going live with you guys.
Game 7s are awesome.
And interacting, but we can't do that unless you're subscribed to youtube.com/chatsportstv.
Let's head back to some more NBA rumors. Let's focus in on some trade discussions here, Jimmy, because there's all kinds of stuff going on right now around one Anthony Davis and what's going on that frontier. So here's the latest, and this is from ESPN. The Lakers and the Celtics are still discussing and are in discussions right now with trade talks with the Pelicans. Now, there was, of course, the mention, and we'll get more in depth on a lot of this stuff here,
right,
how Anthony Davis has allegedly told Rich Paul he wants to go to the Lakers. The Lakers are the front runners, but the Celtics are also still kind of in the mix here as well. So what all do you make of this?
Well, as you guys can tell, I'm looking back and forth because we're getting live updates as well about this Anthony Davis situation. We'll give them to you as they come in, but basically right now the Lakers are making players available already. We already kind of know who this package could surround, who it could be about, but according to Brad Turner, who is plugged in Los Angeles, he's saying right now that this deal could hinge on Kyle Kuzma. The Lakers do not want to give Kuzma up. The Pelicans do want Kyle Kuzma, but of course, the Lakers aren't the only ones in on it. The Boston Celtics as well could have a pretty nice offer to throw together here for Anthony Davis.
It does kind of appear that the Celtics and the Lakers are the two frontrunners. So we'll start here with the Celtics, what they could offer. And if Boston offers this, I think that makes a lot of sense. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, two picks from that possible high Memphis pick, that fits closer to what the Pelicans reportedly want: an all-star player, a young all-star potential player, and 2 first-round selections.
Yeah, I don't hate this trade at all. Well, I almost hate it more for Boston because Anthony Davis has made it known to everybody that he's not going to re-sign with the Boston Celtics, and he will enter in unrestricted free agency in 2020. So does Boston give up their 2 best young assets and a great 2020 NBA draft pick for a guy for 1 year?
I think it depends what happens with Kyrie Irving. Because if you lose Kyrie, all of a sudden you have Marcus Smart and maybe you extend Terry Rozier for a significant amount of money. I think it makes a lot more sense to pair AD and Kyrie, or just to roll with Tatum and Brown and keep your window open longer and not necessarily push all of your chips in right now. So I do think there's a great point there that you made. I think if anyone says no to that trade, I think it'd actually be the Celtics. I don't know if that offer is ever going to be put on the table to the Pelicans. I have a tough time seeing that.
Yeah. So if you think the Celtics say no, type C down in the live chat, the comment section, or type P if you think the Pelicans say no because they don't want to give up Anthony Davis. I think they'd be crazy to say no to that one, though.
Meanwhile, this one actually just came across the news desk here from Mark Stein. The Lakers are made available, so I'll call it their offer for Anthony Davis, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and the number 4 overall pick, which the Pelicans are looking into trading as well to get either more picks back, potentially a different young player back as well. So at least as of now, this is the top offer. And you mentioned that the Pelicans also want Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, they do want Kyle Kuzma. And again, this is just between the Lakers and Pelicans, but the reality is this is probably going to be a multi-team deal.
A third team could definitely come in here.
Whatever happens with Anthony Davis, it's likely going to require another team. So if this hinges on Kyle Kuzma, I think the Lakers are dumb. I think the Lakers should go all in for Anthony Davis. Look, Brandon Ingram has health issues. You don't know what he's going to be. Lonzo Ball, up and down kind of player. Kyle Kuzma, 6-man at best. Maybe you could put him in the right kind of lineup, starting 5, but Anthony Davis is a generational talent, and LeBron James wants talent that's going to get him to the playoffs right now.
Yeah, and I think Davis also becomes that long-term piece. I think my mindset is very much similar to yours. You know, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, they could be anything. They could even be Anthony Davis. Like, best case scenario, those two kind of get close to being around Anthony Davis, and even that is unlikely.
Yeah.
So I think if your Lakers do everything you can to get Anthony Davis, then maybe you can bring in somebody else too. In free agency, you have the cap space if you want it potentially. I think that makes the most sense for both those sides there. And for the Pelicans, I think part of the issue here is that Rich Paul and Davis are pushing hard to go to LA. That negatively impacts Davis's trade value, I think, in a significant way.
Yep.
I think that's a big factor there. But folks, let us know in the comment section, what team do you think will trade for Anthony Davis? Jimmy, what's your prediction here?
I'm going to say it's the Lakers, and I think the Pelicans ended up getting lowballed for it. I don't think if it really hinges on Kyle Kuzma, I think the Lakers win that battle, hold on to Kuzma, and still get Anthony Davis. And if you're looking at giving up the number 4 pick, Lonzo Ball, and Brandon Ingram, I think the Lakers come out absolute winners there.
And I think a big reason why you could see the Pelicans take less is because the other main team in the mix, at least for the reports, are the Boston Celtics. And Anthony Davis doesn't want to go to the Celtics. Rich Paul has said that the Celtics only get Davis guaranteed for 1 year and that he's going to go enter NBA free agency with the assumption he's going to end up in LA after that. Yeah. Now, we've seen teams like the Thunder and the Raptors, potentially the Raptors, I guess, for now, trade for a star that wanted to go to LA in general. I guess we can include the Clippers for Kawhi there.
Right.
And find a way to make it work. That is, though, a dangerous risk, because if you're Boston, the worst case outcome is that you trade for Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving leaves this year, then AD leaves in free agency, and you've already packaged Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now you're left with Marcus Smart, Gordon Hayward, and potentially Al Horford.
And maybe not even Al Horford.
Who might opt out as well, especially if Anthony Davis comes, and who knows if Gordon Hayward's ever going to be the same guy we saw in his prime in Utah coming off that injury.
Right, and if Gordon Hayward is, then maybe Boston still competes for an 8 seed, but then you're on the treadmill of mediocrity, which is probably the worst place to be in the NBA. And then I don't know. I mean, now if they can land Anthony Davis, all of a sudden Boston is, in my opinion, the best team in the Eastern Conference.
This lineup, if they're able to land Anthony Davis, of course, keep Kyrie Irving, keep Horford if he either opts in or they restructure his deal, extend him, whatever. Yeah, cool. Marcus Smart is your shooting guard, in quotes, because he's kind of a combo guard there. That's a really good team. And then you can figure out the bench however you want to. You can go maybe find a cheap shooter if you need. You still have draft picks as well this year and next year to find more shooting out. Maybe you draft like a Tyler Hero potentially. I know maybe a little bit early for him, but you have 2 first-round picks just to give you extra shooting off that bench. And all of a sudden, this is I think you're right, the best team in the Eastern Conference, regardless of what happens with Toronto and Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi Leonard's great, but the next best player in Toronto is Pascal Siakam. And Pascal Siakam and Kawhi Leonard are not as good of a duo as Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis.
And meanwhile, for the Pelicans, especially if you're able to keep Julius Randle, this actually is a pretty good squad.
Yes.
I mean, it's not the best squad, but you've got 3 very promising young players, Tatum, Brown, and Williamson, and Holiday and Randle played fantastic last season.
Yeah, both 20-point-per-game scores. And let's not forget the number 14 overall pick in the lottery. So you get Zion at 1, and then you round out the lottery with a guy like, I don't know, maybe Bol falls down there, and you take a risk on him, or maybe a Kevin Porter Jr., or even Rui Hachimura, Brandon Clark. There's so many different options that New Orleans could go with down at 14, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum added to this starting 5 is pretty insane, if you ask me.
All right, folks, again, let us know who says no to that trade, the Celtics or the Pelicans. Boston is very much in a rare, high-risk, high-reward scenario when it relates to Anthony Davis. Meanwhile, the New York Knicks, a team that Anthony Davis has expressed his interest in being traded to, well, there's kind of 2 sides going on here. Number one, from New York's side and their mindset, they're worried about giving up so many assets in a trade, knowing they've been burned in the past by the Carmelo Anthony deal, which I think does make some sense. Meanwhile, the Pelicans, they're not in love with what the Knicks can offer. That leaves the Lakers, and if Boston wants to get deep involved and go for it, also in the mix. And I think that's a fair point for both sides. This would be a scenario where best offer, both sides are like, I actually don't know if I want to do that, because it would be Mitchell Robinson, the center, who played pretty well, Dennis Smith Jr., Kevin Knox. You'd assume the number 3 overall pick. Maybe you throw in some of the Dallas first-round picks as well. But if you're the Knicks and you do pull off that trade, yes, it brings you Anthony Davis and a star. You better hope you sign Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
Because otherwise, your roster, that's not enough.
No.
I mean, you would have Moutier, Trier, Mario, and Noah Vonleh if you re-sign guys like Mario and Vonleh. That's not going to make the playoffs.
That's not.
Isn't that worse than what Davis said for the Pelicans the past couple of years?
That's by far worse than what. I mean, the second best player on that Knicks team is way, way worse than Drew Holiday, who was the second best player on that Pelicans team. So Anthony Davis is all of a sudden stuck back in this new place, or the new place, but same situation that he was in New Orleans. You're just in Madison Square Garden instead of New Orleans.
And if this is the scenario, why would AD want to re-sign?
Yeah,
if he wants to win. Now, on all of a sudden, the Pelicans, here's what Anthony Davis should do, by the way, if this trade were to go down. I'm going to go back to the team that has Zion, R.J. Barrett, Drew Holiday, and Kevin Knox.
Yeah.
I'll do the very dirty move of leaving for a year, coming back. Oh, I guess that's the LeBron James move with the Cavs after they got Kyrie Irving there. And all of a sudden, I think that Pelicans team is better than the Knicks team, even though they don't have Anthony Davis. They have so many other promising young pieces.
They're better right off the bat, and they're better set up for the future. You even, add in a young guy like Dennis Smith Jr., who I still like, and then all of a sudden R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson are back together again in New Orleans, even though R.J. Barrett has said he doesn't want to go anywhere but New York, which is kind of a cop-out because they have the number 3 pick.
Let's move to some other NBA rumors here around the Charlotte Hornets there. And this in terms of Kemba Walker, who is still prioritizing Charlotte, and he's eligible for that Supermax extension. The big note here, though, is that the Lakers, Mavs, and Knicks, perhaps unsurprisingly, Jimmy, have interest in signing Walker if he hits the open market, if maybe the Hornets don't offer the full Supermax, which I think is a strong possibility here.
I do too. I think it is a very strong possibility because once they offer Kemba Walker the Supermax, a 29-year-old point guard, then they don't have any room or any flexibility to do anything else. And Charlotte's ceiling is a 7-8 seed in the Eastern Conference for a long time.
Not winning any playoff series.
No.
And how do you get better? I mean, you're kind of burdened by the Nick Batum contract. And you don't have the high picks. You're stuck in the worst spot of all in the NBA, which is not that bad to win the lottery, even get a top 5 pick, and not good enough to actually do anything in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Kemba Walker's side, if they do offer him the Supermax, I mean, you can't turn it down because it's 5 years, $220 million, which is insane. But it's also like, okay, I'm signing here. This is my home, but, I'm stuck here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere physically. I'm staying in Charlotte, and I'm not going anywhere in the NBA realm because we're not going to make any moves to move up in the Eastern Conference.
Now, here are the top teams interested in Kemba Walker. Like we mentioned, the Knicks, of course, the Hornets, who he's played for the past couple of years, the Lakers, and the Mavs as well. Which team jumps out to you, Jimmy, as either a good fit or a likely fit?
The Dallas Mavericks. I know
softball it
seems biased. Look, the likely fit, I still give the Hornets the edge. I still truly believe the Hornets bring him back, offer him the Supermax. Michael Jordan said he'll do whatever it takes to bring him back. I'll see it if they pony up the dough, and then I'll believe
I'm not
it.
convinced that they're going to.
I'm really not either.
I still think it might make more sense for the Hornets to say, Kemba, you are awesome. We love you so much, but here's the thing. We're not going to be that good with you. It might be in the best interest for all parties involved for Kemba to go play for a different team like the Mavs or the Lakers if they miss out on everybody else, or even the Knicks if they can't find somebody. Get that max contract still, and Charlotte enters a long-term rebuilding period.
Yeah, and so here's my main reason for Dallas. Lakers, it's been reported they are not the front runner. We'll get into that for major free agents, and Kemba Walker is a major free agent. Ian Bagley of New York, the New York Times, he said, I believe it's the New York Times, ESPN New York, whatever it is.
SNY in New York.
Okay,
used to be ESPN.
Says the Knicks really aren't that interested in signing Kemba Walker. So all of the sudden, that leaves you with one team or a wild card team outside of Charlotte, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. And the Mavs get a big 3 together of Kemba, Luka Doncic, and Kristaps Porzingis.
It's a fun core.
That pushes you into, I think, the top 5 of the West, potentially top 4 if health isn't an issue and the fit between Kemba and Luka works out.
All right, folks, let us know in the comment section what team you think Kemba Walker will sign with in free agency. I'll pick the Mavs.
Really? Okay.
I'll go bold and say the Mavs end up getting Kemba.
Okay, I'm going to say Charlotte. I'm going to be safe and pick the team. But if they don't offer him the Supermax, I'm going with the Dallas Mavericks. Let's make it happen.
All right, let's move on to the New York Nets here and Tobias Harris, or Brooklyn Nets. Wow. Well, technically kind of true,
New York,
but also very, very wrong is the thing.
It's not the New Jersey Nets.
It is not. So the Nets and Tobias Harris, there's mutual interest there, which I think makes a lot of sense for both these parties. Now, if the Sixers come up and say, Tobias, here's your max contract, I'd stay in Philadelphia if I'm Harris, but there is some connection there in particular for Harris. The family and Nets coach Kenny Atkinson were 10 miles apart, and Steve Atkinson, Kenny's brother, actually coached Tobias in high school. So there is that connection, and in particular for Brooklyn, got it right that time, folks, this roster, I think, actually becomes very, very dangerous, regardless of what happens with the Kyrie Irving pursuit or the D'Angelo Russell extension there. You bring in Tobias Harris. The big thing right now I think the Nets are missing is someone to play that 4 spot. Tobias Harris, I think, slots in really, really well alongside Jared Allen. You have Karis LeVert, you have Joe Harris. If it's Russell, if it's Kyrie Irving, whatever it is, you have good depth too. Prince, Dinwiddie, you have Hollis Jefferson. You could maybe bring back Dudley. Don't know if you do. That's it. That might legitimately be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, we don't.
What is going on?
Right. I mean, there's all kinds. There were a 6 seed, I believe, in this past year. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, especially if D'Angelo Russell has another All-Star type year. You got to think he's still going to grow at whatever he is, 21, 22 years old. And then you add in a Tobias Harris who has the seasoning of a veteran, but he's also got the youth, and he can come in and knock down shots. You also have a guy like Rodion Kurucs, who I really, really like for Brooklyn as a rookie this past season. I would love that Nets team, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see the 76ers want to keep that core together, pay the luxury tax, offer Butler and Tobias Harris the max.
All right, so who will the Nets sign this offseason? You could include D'Angelo Russell because he is an RFA. Who do you think they end up landing?
I'm going to say Kyrie Irving.
Okay.
I think as long as Anthony Davis doesn't go to Boston, which I don't see that happening, I think it's still the Lakers. Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn makes way too much sense. I'm taking them.
How about Julius Randle as well?
Yeah, not a top-tier guy. It's not going to be like, oh my gosh, we got Julius Randle, we won the offseason. But if you pair Julius already with D'Angelo Russell and they need that power forward, position solidified, that's a great signing.
All right, you teased this earlier, Jimmy. The Lakers not being the favorites for free agents. That's the report out of ESPN. And I think this, puts added pressure on landing Anthony Davis. At the same time, if you're an NBA free agent, be it your Kyrie Irving, your Kawhi if you do want to leave Toronto, you're anybody out there, Kemba Walker even, if the Lakers land Anthony Davis and they have LeBron James, and even if they keep Kyle Kuzma potentially too, that's a pretty alluring destination. I mean, they'll pay you. I think that if they miss on AD, maybe it is still, I don't know if I want to go to LA, but if they land AD and LeBron, I think that's in really good shape overall, like as a destination.
Yeah, and LA is almost always a destination. It's pretty insane that the Lakers haven't been able to get anybody in a while. They got LeBron James, and then that was about it. But yeah, you add some kind of top tier, and it's a good destination. But who are they going to add? Right now,
yeah, that's the issue.
I think Kyrie Irving is the most likely free agent, and they're not the front runner for him. Anthony Davis, that's a trade, and then you got to decide what you're going to do in free agency there.
And again, this is their current lineup as we sit. Lonzo Ball, Ingram, Kuzma, LeBron, and we'll throw JaVale in there. Of course, you have Josh Hart coming off the bench too. Can also start in theory if that's what you want to go at shooting guard, but it's intriguing, just not necessarily the most intriguing option out there. No. Let's move then to the Chicago Bulls. This one I found interesting again from The Athletic. The Bulls are open to numerous trades with only two real untouchables. Maybe not the two you even would have thought. Markin and Wendell Carter are the two they're not interested in shopping. That means Zach LaVine could be out there. Otto Porter, and of course, the number 7 overall pick. That's interesting to me. My biggest question is, okay, what does any combination of LaVine, Porter, and Dunn actually net you?
Yeah, and Porter actually ended up being really good for them after the Bobby Portis trade.
I'm a big fan of Zach LaVine as well. Not so much Chris Dunn, but
both of them are overpaid. And
yeah,
that is a big
fair.
issue. Maybe they feel like they could get in the running for some free agents, and that's what they're trying to do is unload these contracts. And,
okay, I can see that.
And maybe if you package the number 7 pick with one of them, then somebody takes on the contract. But in all reality, this draft is 3 deep. And if you want to get crazy, I guess you could say 5 deep if you like Jarrett Culver and DeAndre Hunter that much. And 6 to 7, the drop-off is pretty big.
I could see a scenario, I guess, where the Bulls try and get involved with that number 3 or with that multi-team deal for AD because they want Lonzo Ball. So maybe they could put together a package that would net them Lonzo. I don't know what that looks like.
I don't either.
But Lonzo would be an upgrade over Chris Dunn, and now I think you might have to include either Porter or LaVine, and does that interest the Pelicans? No, and I think that's maybe why it's a bit unlikely on that front.
Yeah, and I don't know what the package would look like, but Porter in LA, if Brandon Ingram's gone, that seems very similar play style, players in general. I could see it happening.